All right, we'll call to order the city council meeting for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Welcome one and all. 6 members of the council are present. Councilmember Bloom is expected to join us later online. Not yet. Okay. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by our mayor, Mr. Dirk Burton.
Please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which we live, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Our one only item of business is a public hearing on the truth in taxation, and we'll turn this time to Denise Steck, our Administrative Services Director, to lead us through the discussion here.
I just choose one. I just choose one. Thank you, Council. We're here to give you a short presentation on truth and taxation, and we'll just move forward. Does this work? Thank you. Is it up or down? Great. This is a quick slide to just explain how truth in taxation works. When property values increase on a home or property, business, residence, whatever, our property tax rate decreases. And when the property values decrease, which hasn't happened since 2008, the property tax rate increases. That is to provide us with the stability of property tax revenue. So we receive dollar for dollar the same revenue every year for the same structures that were in the previous year. That microphone is funny. If we get new growth, so if a business develops or a new home is built in the community, that's considered new growth, and we do receive additional revenue for that. But we anticipate providing service for that same business too. So that same service level is continued forward. Truth in taxation is not meant to mean that each individual property will pay the same tax from year to year. It's calculated based on the entire city. So, and it excludes new growth. So it's not just the one house on the block, it's the entire city. As an example of this, I looked up a couple of people's property tax notices, and the majority of the people that I looked at that work for the city, their taxes went down for the most part from year to year. However, my daughter lives on the west side of the city, and her property tax went up because the evaluation or assessment for her neighborhood has increased in value as they've continued to develop in her area. So it's not a guarantee when you say, hey, my tax is going to go down even with a tax increase, but it is the majority. The minority of homes will see a slight increase, or commercial properties, sometimes they assess or increase in value at a rate greater than residential properties, and that will push residential property tax down. So there's balance. This is a chart of tax rate history and the value of average home value that has been given our city over time. So you can see in 2015 that our property tax rate was much higher than it is right now. It was 0.002251, and the average home value was $231,800. Hard to believe that just not that long ago, that was the value of an average home in West Jordan. Over time, you can see that yellow line, the property values have increased, or the average home value in West Jordan, and the property tax rate decreases at that same level unless we do truth in taxation. This slide is meant to provide you with the reasoning behind to provide the public with information regarding why we chose a 3.5% property tax rate increase. We try to mark the increase to inflation. These are our inflation numbers over the last January to January, March to March, and June to June. So 2023 to 2024, you can see nationwide that was about 3.5%. Mountain West, it was 2.5%. However, a lot of the products and consumables that the city uses exceeds that Mountain West inflationary factor, mostly construction materials. So asphalt overlay, that kind of thing, as well as the cost of labor and benefits. Oops, yeah, I'm going the right way. For information, in 2023, our property tax rate was 0.01443. We received $18.7 million of property tax dollars, and we had new growth of $500,000. So we received $19.28 million last year in property tax revenue. This year, our certified rate from the county was 0.0331. So you can see the red numbers are exactly what we received last year. So it doesn't matter if your value went up or down, they adjusted and they provided that same revenue. We had new growth in our community that's bringing in about $817,000, and our total tax, if we had not done truth and taxation, would have been $20,100,000. The council approved and agreed to a 3.5% inflationary tax increase that we're proposing tonight. You can see that that does not change new growth. That only changes that property tax revenue number and will bring in additional $709,000 into the city. This year, we received kind of a surprise when we heard from some of our residents that they asked us, why does West Jordan have a debt service line? We've never had a debt service line in the past. It was always rolled into the rate. This year, the county chose to break it out separately, so it looks a little different on the property tax notices. This is our last payment on the GO bond. We will not have that line on our property tax notices again unless we choose to go to
How many years was that bond?
20 years.
So 19 years it wasn't on there.
I know. I'm like, seriously, the last year, you're gonna like cause this kind of turmoil. Yeah. And they did it across the board, so it wasn't just to West Jordan, but it was our last year. So you can let your taxpayers know that this is the last year that they will see that on their notice. This is what their property tax notices look like. This is a notice from one of the council members' homes, actually. And you'll see under the yellow line there.
Can I interrupt you?
I'm not going to name whose this one is.
No, I'm not asking
Oh.
that. Don't we have new bonds coming
Good
next year?
question.
So will that be on instead of the GO bond, it'll be a different bond on people's notices?
It won't. A good question. So the only way that it will show up here is if we have gone to a voter approved bond. So it would have to go out on a ballot and be voter approved. This GO bond was issued in 2004, and it was to construct the Justice Center and acquire some open space. And it was a voter approved bond. So you can see here that in this particular home, in 2023, which is the gray area, they would have paid they paid $406.21 to the city. And this year, if the tax is approved, they'll pay $400.17 to the city. Now the outlier is that debt service, but again, it is a small inflationary increase of $9 a year. And the $15 will go off next year. Let's see, what else is there? This tax increase displays. Okay. You did approve a 3.5% rate increase. The county also surprised us with rounding. They'd never done that before. They'd always gone to 2 decimals, and this year they decided to go to no decimals. So this is not in excess of what you approved. It's exactly what you approved, but the county chose to round this year in their property tax notices. All right, the taxpayer impact on an average residential home. In 2023, the property tax to the city went down $5, or is $5. Help me, Becky. Was that from the prior year? Okay, so from 2022 to 2023, it went down $5. And then the certified tax rate actually went down as well. And then the proposed will go up $9. So you'll see that that debt service is pretty consistent across the board, and that will be reduced off of their tax bill next year. So an average home will be paying $415 a year in property tax, and the increase is actually $9. This is the property tax distribution. A lot of times when someone says you're raising taxes by 3.5%, the assumption is it's on the entire bill. And that's not the case. It's 3.5% of 15% of the bill. And so we recognize that 57% of every dollar paid in property tax goes to the school district, 20% goes to the county, 15% goes to the city, and 8% goes to the smaller districts like the Utah Central Water Conservancy District, Mosquito Abatement, Jordan Valley Water. Okay. So a very small portion. The average West Jordan home is estimated to pay $2,744 in property tax, or $228 a month. Of that amount, the city will receive $414 or $34 a month. And you can see how the property tax is distributed there below as well. All right, so as far as our budget goes, this is a representation of how much of the revenue our property tax comes in. I had a discussion this morning in a staff meeting with my team about why our property tax rate can remain so low. And that has to do with our philosophy that property tax contributes to the whole of the general fund. And we haven't isolated a property tax rate dedicated to only a police service or only a fire service. Our property tax revenue would pay for our fire service and a little bit more of police service. But you can see that police and fire cost about $46.5 million, and property tax brings in about $21.5 million. Really does explain at the next chart why our taxes are so much lower than other communities that may have chosen to dedicate property tax to funding in full public safety. West Jordan remains one of the most affordable places to own a home or a business based on our property tax. And you'll see here that we're low. The other cities that you see on this chart, the ones with the stars next to them, have other districts that they either contract with or a dedicated property tax to those services. The policy that, or not policy, I guess the practice that the council has chosen to follow for the last several years of the budget is really a best practice, and is honored and esteemed by several cities and governments and rating agencies or credit rating agencies, because we're addressing the effects of inflation as it goes instead of having spikes come up. We're listening to the taxpayers. In 2018, there was a much larger property tax increase, and one of the comments over and over and over, especially from those on fixed income, is please don't make large jumps every 5 to 7 years. That's hurting us. We'd like to see small jumps coming as they go so that we can put it into our budget instead of seeing a 20% increase or a 25% increase. Address inflation annually. We address our service level demands. As you know, we've had years where wages or a wage war occurs with public safety, and we have to adjust for that. And we've maintained long-term sustainability of our ongoing revenue with that. We also guarantee independence and oversight in the property tax process. So the assessed values on the property are done by the Salt Lake County Assessor's Office. Our tax is calculated in a separate department, the County Auditor's Office. The oversight of the process is by the State Auditor's Office, and then the tax collection is done by the State Tax Commission. So it goes through several rounds of oversight and independence to ensure transparency and accountability. Our next steps will be that you will adopt a property tax rate, whatever it is you choose, and the final budget before September 1st. And our next council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 27th at 6 o'clock, which is at what time you'll address the budget and the property tax rate. That's it for our presentation tonight. I hope that helps you in understanding and the public in understanding the process for truth and taxation. And I'm available to answer any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for staff? Let's go to Councilmember Shelton.
Yeah, I have one question. I think you explained this, but I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. The county rounded up the 3.5% to 4%, but they're not collecting 4%.
Correct.
They're collecting 3.5%.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Denise? All right. Seeing none, we'll go to the fun part, why you've all come. This is the public hearing. This is going to follow the same format as our normal public hearings. You can see on the corner of the screen in very small print. You have the opportunity. There we go. That was this little jab at our staff. It's your chance to share your thoughts on this item. This is the budget/tax rate. We'll give you 3 minutes and we'll go to those in the room first. So we'll go ahead and call this open, and anybody who'd like to address the council, don't all rush the microphone at once. And make sure you give us your name.
Chris McConaughey, West Jordan resident. And there's my timer. So I'm here tonight to give the council my 2 cents on this property tax increase. And it is almost literally that. $9 difference. If you divide that out over 365 days, it's just under 2.5 cents per day. Literally just over 2 cents. My first thought with the property tax increase is, well, nobody likes property tax increases. However, you don't hear people saying, I want to avoid that by seeing a decrease in service. I could name at least 24 services I would like to see the city expand. Even just maintaining, prices are going up. We need to maintain funding to provide a reasonable level of service. There's definitely a few tweaks I would suggest making to the budget. I'm sure you've heard me talk before about the lot line adjustment fee as being one of them, but how the funds are spent overall, I'm pretty happy with. Even that aside, that's not why we're here tonight. Tonight, we're just here to talk about the total amount of revenue that's going to be collected by the city. And I'm happy with the proposed property tax increase. I think it's a responsible thing to do. I would rather see small increases occasionally as necessary to keep up with the inevitable cost increases that we often come up against. The 3.5% seems a lot smaller of an increase than what my family's been experiencing. Seeing the city take just a small step, I'm happy with that. We often hear the argument that, well, the city should wait and do it later because other entities are going to be raising property taxes now and we don't want to hurt anybody too much. Well, if we keep waiting, we will hurt people because we'll find ourselves in the position where we've waited too long and we have to raise it significantly higher. I'm very happy with what's been proposed. I've seen how the council intends to spend the money. I very much appreciate the fact that the council is taking this action now and not ignoring it in the public view and trying to do what's politically expedient and avoid a property tax increase and expect the employees to do more with less. That's happened way too often. The employees are fantastic about stretching every penny they get as far as they can. But when you reduce the pennies, there's only so much they can do. Again, it's literally 2 cents. I'm happy to share my 2 cents with the council, both verbally, but also literally. I would encourage you to approve what's been proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to address the council? Come on up. And remember, just give us your name, even though,
Heard from me before.
yeah, you look familiar.
My name is Rob Bennett. I'm not the senator, but I'm no way related to him. But I'm also here to express my support for the tax increase that's being proposed. As Chris McConaughey said, there is no happiness that comes from raising a tax rate. Nobody enjoys seeing that happen. But it is the responsible thing to do to take what money we collectively decide is necessary for the improvement of our quality of life. And we pitch in together and make it so that that amount of money will benefit the lives of all of us, every single resident, every single business owner, every single visitor who comes to our city will be able to benefit from that responsible use of those funds. So I just would encourage you to do the right thing, not necessarily, which is always the politically astute thing, which is to say no to something on principle when it actually is a reasonable thing to do that benefits the constituents that put you in this place to make that decision on their behalf. So I personally support this. I think it's a good, reasonable use of the resources that have been committed. And I hope that you will favorably consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room who would like to address the council? There's a couple other people. Now, when I said don't rush the microphone all at once, I didn't mean don't rush it at all. You do have the opportunity. All right, I'm not seeing any more in the, oh, yeah, okay, go ahead, one more. Or more, one more for now.
Thank you. My name is Elena Samuels. Been a member or a resident of West Jordan, homeowner since 2018. A lot has changed since then. I'm actually really surprised to hear a lot of enthusiasm for raising the rates that much. A lot has changed. I've never been to one of these, but I came because my neighborhood has changed drastically. Almost all my neighbors have changed. There are always cars parked across the entire street, all over the sidewalk. There's trash everywhere. Oak Crest Elementary School is right behind my house. I can no longer walk my dog there. There's literally trash and garbage. Kids are always stepping in dog poop. So I'm at a point where I really want to invest in my city more, but I do also want to represent a lot of the people who aren't here because they don't have the time or resources to come to something like this. I don't have, if you think pathos, logos, ethos, I don't have like the hard numbers, but I do want to recommend, like, at least represent the ethos of a lot of probably multicultural people in my neighborhood that just aren't going to speak up and to come to something like this. My concern is we're still dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic. In 2020, I was, the stereotypical, lost a job impacted by the pandemic, spouse left. I'm now responsible for my own home. I'm probably going to have to pay out equity on a house value that is astronomically higher than before, which I get are my own personal problems, but I do want to stay here. I actually do love West Jordan. My concern is just how big the jump is. There's a lot of people that aren't even, honestly, educated enough to even read to know what's coming. And I do want to put that out there. I also am in favor of property tax, just not that big of a jump. I think we need a little bit more of a phased approach to get there. One of my concerns is I just got my property tax notice. I've obviously been busy with the divorce and medical issues, but I didn't even realize my home was overvalued in 2023. I was just too busy. So for 2024, I will be appealing my house property valuation. It's actually incorrect. I know, because I had to get one for a divorce. It's by a lot. So I'm only bringing this up because I'm starting to gather data points. I'm a little bit alarmed on how big the jump is. My experience with West Jordan, when I have called and asked for some help, has been wonderful. I have no doubt we'll have the right people to help deploy the resources we have. I'm just really, really worried. If it impacts me that much, when I actually have a lot more income than a lot of people on my street, I'm just really worried that we're really not taking into account. People need time to catch up. Would love to do a phased approach. And like I said, I don't have data points other than my own budget, but I'm already working 2 jobs. Dealing with medical issues, and I really worry about people who are even less fortunate than me that are really going to struggle with this. So just want to leave that out there, that if we could do a phased approach, it would really help. We're really not out of.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate you making the time to come down tonight. Anybody else in the room who would like to address the council? All right, I am not seeing anybody else in the room, so we'll go to online. If there's anybody online who would like to address the council, Mr. Anderson, is there anyone with a hand up?
Yes, of the 5 members of the public online, Mr. Wilkinson has raised his hand.
Mr. Wilkinson, we'll go to you. And as soon as you unmute, you'll have your 3 minutes.
I just had a question. Would it be okay to contact the presenter tonight? I think that was Denise Steck. I don't know if anyone can answer that. I had a question about one of the points she made. So I don't know. Maybe you could address that after, just if it would be okay to contact her, or if not, if I couldn't contact her, who I could address a question to about just one of the points that was made. That's really all I was wondering about. I I can't think of 24 services that West Jordan City even provides. So for Mr. McConaughey to allege that there were 24 services he'd like to see expanded, I'm thinking through those, but I'm also against the property tax increase. I always question the motivation of those who support tax increases of any kind. I think we should always be trying to limit government spending. The point was raised, maybe a month ago at this meeting, that West Jordan's human resources or HR capital, whatever you want to call it, had increased at some absurd exponential rate compared to other cities. So it makes you wonder what the 2.5 cents a day goes toward. That's really all I had. If anyone can answer, who could address or who could respond to a question about the presentation tonight, I would appreciate that. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. We will have our staff reach out and get in touch with you. Mr. Anderson, is there anybody else online?
No one else has raised their hand, Chair.
Wonderful. We'll go ahead and declare, well, we'll give one more chance. Anybody in the room who didn't speak, who changed their mind? Okay. Okay. Yep. That's why I wanted to do it. I thought there might be a latecomer. Go ahead and come on up and we'll give you 3 minutes, and there'll be a nice little timer on the corner of the screen up here.
Thank you. I don't need 3 minutes, but I appreciate the opportunity.
And give us your name.
Jeff Rowland. Just wanted to come get clarification on what the tax increase was going towards specifically. 17% is what my tax increase has been over the last 4 years. So, if you add up the last 4 years, I understand before that West Jordan's been pretty conscientious of not raising the tax, which of course we appreciate, but over the last 4 years, it's 17%. And yet I don't really see any specifics as to what that is going towards. So I think some clarification for the public on where that money is specifically going would be very, very appreciated. So that was my comment. I don't know how we find that or where that's disclosed or.
Excellent. I can have our staff reach out and point you to the budget, and there's more information in there than you could ever want. I promise.
Probably so. I think I speak for many citizens, though, I think being transparent, that should just be put out there. Nobody should have to ask. It should come in some form, either electronically and or via mail, just to identify, here's how we raised your taxes and here's where it went specifically. That's a suggestion on my part. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll do one more last call. Anybody have a change of heart? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And as Ms. Steck mentioned in her presentation, we will be making a final decision on this in 2 weeks from tonight. It's actually going to be on a Tuesday. Our normal meetings are on Wednesday, so make note. It is on Tuesday. There was a scheduling conflict with the city, so we had to move it back one night. So we will be voting on this officially in 2 weeks. Is there any comments from the council before we adjourn this meeting and move to the Fairway Estates meeting? Councilmember Green.
if we're going to, so this is the meeting that if we're going to adjust the numbers, or we decide that we want to adjust the numbers, tonight's where we're going to have to come up with those and give those to staff so that they can have those ready for the 2 weeks. So if there's, with that being said, I will just tell you that I'm probably going to be voting against the tax increase. Not for reasonable, not for political, but because I think the 3.5% is too high. We ended up from the budget that we got in May, and by the way, this is for those of you here in the audience. You're going to hear me tonight say I'm not supporting the tax increase, but I was the one that said we go to truth and proposed the motion to the council a couple of months ago to come to this meeting. I like the truth and taxation process because it allows us to get better numbers and have a little bit more breathing room to decide what we want to do with the budget. The thing that I don't like about the tax increase is that our new growth numbers were 800 and something $1,000. The original new growth numbers that we got in the budget before the county finally gave us the certified tax rate was someplace in the neighborhood of 400 something $1,000. We ended up with a windfall. I want to say windfall. We ended up with a windfall of new growth that was double what we had anticipated, almost double what we had anticipated. That $400,000 would cover. And by the way, when we first got our budget, the tax increase based on the property value was 600 and something thousand, but with the final valuation number, we're at 700 and whatever it is now. If we went back to that 600,000, 645,000, if I remember right, it's something like that. I'm getting old. My memory's not that good. And we took the $400,000 that we got off of the new growth that was a substantial amount that we were surprised with. That's $200,000, $230,000. That's a little bit over that's a little bit over more than the 1.5% property tax increase. We could absorb out of reserves or out of sales tax revenue, we could absorb $200,000 and we don't need to raise taxes this year. That's where I'm at. Do I think that we needed to have some extra revenue to offset inflation? Yes, but we got a big chunk of money in new growth to offset inflation. And so if you think about where we're going with the budget, and I mentioned this before, $700,000 in property tax increase, 800,000 in new growth. We're increasing the budget of this city by $1.5 million. I'm not sure that I want the budget of the city to grow that fast. And I know that we've had those discussions on how fast the city budget should grow and what we should do. To answer Mr. Rowland's question, I will answer your question. The property tax increase goes directly to the general fund. And so that the money would be dispersed throughout the general fund to pay for the increased costs of police, fire, roads, anything, city employee health insurance costs, anything that was inflationary. Do I think that we need to do something to make sure that we're staying caught up with inflation? Yeah. But I think this year, we were handed a good windfall with property tax increase with the new valuation. And I don't think And when we look at the way sales tax numbers came in this year, if I understand the sales tax numbers, and Denise, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong at some point in time, but if I read the sales tax revenue report, we're going to be up someplace in the neighborhood, $3-4 million from what we'd hadn't anticipated. Couple $100,000 out of that to fund this year, I think would be okay with that. So that's my, along with Mr. McConaughey, that's my 2 cents, and that's where I stand. I will probably not, I will be a no on this property tax increase.
Councilmember Shelton, you are next.
I'd like to just, as much as I hate to do this, I'd like to respectfully disagree with Mr. Kelvin Green, Councilmember Green. The city is millions upon millions of dollars in the hole just on road repairs alone. And this tax increase will not even come close to covering that hole, literally and figuratively. So it would be irresponsible, in my opinion, to vote no on this increase, because just for one reason alone, our roads are in desperate need of repair, and they're not getting repaired at the rate that they're becoming disrepaired. So I know that maybe is a simplistic approach, but that's just one angle of this budget that I feel needs to be looked at and understood. Is that I have constituents who come to me and say, hey, we need better transportation throughout the city. We need to be able to get from point A to point Z without losing a wheel off of our vehicle. So just one point that I wanted to make. And that's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. I did forget to mention, Councilmember Bloom joined us electronically at about 6:02, by the way, so she's been privy to this pretty much whole conversation, except for maybe the first half of the pledge. Councilmember Whitelock.
Thank you. I don't take tax increases lightly. I think they're something that we should weigh out. I appreciate that there's 7 of us, so you're going to get 7 different opinions, right? And our job is to look at all the information that we have, weigh it out in our minds, have discussions, which we've done, and then decide based on what we've researched, what we've seen, and what our residents have asked of us, how we're going to vote. So there is a philosophy of some of us that every year we should do a small tax increase, and I think you've heard that expressed tonight. And I agree that we need to keep up with inflation. When I first joined the council, we were way behind because prior councils hadn't wanted to raise taxes and hadn't. And so we had some desperate needs. But when I look at any budget, my home budget, when I was a director of a pharmaceutical research company, that budget, it was always what are the needs and what are the wants? Because we always have needs and we always, at least everyone I know has wants. The needs we absolutely need to take care of. And you've heard some of our needs tonight. We do need asphalt. We do have roads. We've got a lot of lane miles. And they need to be taken care of. And I'm so grateful that a council prior to me decided that they were going to also allocate funds to plow the roads, because for a while in West Jordan, they didn't. Major roads maybe got done, but your subdivision, good luck if it ever got done. And it was hard when that was occurring. So I'm grateful to that council that chose to prioritize that. Now, in this budget, however, I feel like we're not just accomplishing needs. I feel like there are some wants in there that I don't agree with. And my concern is that we're growing staff at an alarming rate. And staff is always the biggest part of your budget. And that makes sense, right? It takes a lot of people to do the work. But my concern is that we're adding staff members that I'm not in favor of, and I've expressed that in prior meetings. So when you ask, what are we doing? Well, we're adding communications, we're adding some in finance, I can't remember all of them, but some police. And there are some things that I can support, but there are others that I think, I don't know, if our increased funds in growth aren't taking care of that, I'm not sure that I have the appetite to increase taxes. And then I think Councilmember Green has a legitimate thought. And we've discussed it, and I agree with him. When we first got our budget, and just like with the state, the way we do these budgets seems a little bit out of whack to me. Our legislature doesn't get the numbers until almost the end of the session. We don't get the numbers until almost the time that the state tells us we have to vote on our budget. It seems a little backwards to me, but that's the way it's set up, and that's the system we must work in. But so our great staff put together our budget based on best thoughts. And then we got more growth than we had anticipated. We are a growing city. We are not a dying city at this point. And I think our growth needs to start paying for more of our needs and not, I'm struggling with this, that we need to raise taxes every year. It's not a philosophy that I believe in. I hope everyone's okay with that we can have different philosophies, because that is not my philosophy. My philosophy is you live within your means and you've grown almost $1 million. 800,000 is pretty close to $1 million. It's like saying $80. Well, that's pretty close to 100, right? It's almost $1 million that we grew. I would hope that $1 million could pay for our needs, and I think it could. So my concern, and I'm still looking for residents. I've had some call me, some email me, and I appreciate those of you that have taken your time tonight to come and to share. And I agree. And sometimes your tax evaluation, mine has done the same thing, shot up more than I would have ever dreamed it could have. So go you to trying to work on that, because I gave up. But I didn't have the documents that it sounds like you have. But there are many among us that, yeah, 2 cents a day if you're making 100,000 a year is no big deal. But 2 cents a day if you're making $40,000 a year, well, that's a different story. So I'm still thinking about it and have a couple of weeks, but I would love to see us say we're not raising it to the 3.8 or 9, 4% according to the county. And that we took a step back and said, oh, we did get more, so we don't have to put that great a burden on our residents. So those are just my thoughts. I would love more people to reach out. It's kind of sad that this is one of the biggest things that this council does, and we have so few people to join us, and they can even do it electronically. And so, but I would also like to say that if you have questions about the budget, our mayor is the one that can set you up with whoever you need to talk to with staff. So reach out to him. He has office hours, he's available, and he likes to talk. So reach out to the mayor.
Thank you. Any other council members? I will just say, this is my philosophy. This is kind of where I come down on this. The tax rate last year was, for the city, was 0.001443. 1443. Let's get rid of the zeros in the point. 14 and change. Percents of a percent, by the way. So it's like, there's lots of zeros and decimals. Anyway, 14 is the operative number. With the increase proposed, and I use increase in quotes, it'll be 0.001378. Your tax rate will be lower this year than it was last year. Now, if your home went up in value more than 3.5%, then the amount that you will pay based on that function will be higher. On average in West Jordan, like Chris McConaughey said, who has left, that's 2 cents a day or 2.5 cents a day or $9 a year. Oh, and I just reached my time limit on my phone for the day. New growth is great, and it's great that we get money for new growth. However, that new growth comes because there's new people, there's new properties, there's new drains on the city budget, on city services. So because we got more growth money than was originally proposed in the anticipated budget, means we got more growth in people, in buildings, in needs that we have to service than was originally anticipated in that budget. So for me, using the growth money as a way to offset inflationary increases doesn't jive, because that growth money's spoken for, because now you have a new drain on the budget, right? You've got more people, more houses, more businesses, more whatever. So for me, the increase number, and again, I use that in quotes, which is less than last year as a rate goes, is necessary to keep pace with paying our employees. Somebody mentioned health insurance costs. I don't remember which one of you guys said that. Health insurance costs for employees. Obviously, you know that inflation in health insurance is far more ridiculous than it is in almost any other sector of the economy. Asphalt, police, fire, new cars, policemen need cars, street repair guys need cars. It's just, it goes towards so many things, and it goes into that general fund that just gets dispersed to all these things. So it's keeping pace. Yes, we could always find a want that needs to be cut. I agree with that. But there's a need right behind it that is still lacking. So I would love to anticipate, let's go through line by line and find out which ones are wants, because like Councilmember Shelton said, our road fund needs something like $27 million that it doesn't have. So if there's wants, let's kill the wants or not kill the wants, but reduce the wants and buy more asphalt, because we need it, right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents for today. I'll save them up for next time, and I'll put in 15 cents on when we meet again in 2 weeks. Any further comments? Councilmember Green, second bite?
I would agree that if we want to get rid of the wants, we ought to do it. If this were about fixing asphalt, I would agree. But we're not fixing asphalt with this tax increase. There's a little bit of money that might go, the money that's going to go towards asphalt is going to be the money left over from sales tax this year. That extra 3 or 4 million will go into CIP, and that'll pay for the asphalt. The additional code enforcement officers, some of the additional staff. Yeah, we did have new growth, and that's why I'm okay with growing 5 police officers and covering those. And we got some good offset with some federal grants to help offset those for the first 4 years. I'm good with that. What I'm not good with is things like, and I'll be blunt, we're not creative enough to figure out how to come up with a car for one employee, and we have to go buy a new car because we can't use, it seems to me that we need to, there's enough cars, enough police cars and other cars rotating through the fleet that we could have come up with one car. Look, I drive my pickup truck. It's a 2003 F-150. Runs pretty dang good. Hauls a ton of stuff. That V10 will pull anything. My car is a 2005, and it's pretty dang quick on the start, by the way, if you want to give it gas going up the freeway on-ramp. So there are a couple of things in the budget that I think we ended up that And you're right, we had new growth, but we had double the new growth that we needed. And, we had doubled the new growth of what we'd anticipated, and somewhere we're not using that for new growth. And so we should be covering some of the city's costs. So that's where I stand with that. But I do appreciate the perspectives of everyone. And, anyway, that's my few more cents.
Councilmember Bador.
I haven't spoken, so I guess I might as well, now I'll speak, get that going. I came at this as very different, new to the council, new to a lot of this, but I always looked at my tax increase the same way I looked at every time I went to my boss every year and wanted my cost of living increase. I'd always say, I need this because the cost of living went up. And if I got just a basic, I got pretty upset because that was only going to keep me level. And I felt I'd worked at a company for another year. I deserved more. So I always looked at my tax increase as that is the city and their cost of living increase and things like that. It never occurred to me any other way. It just seemed like something that was going to happen. Things are more expensive. The city's going to be that way. I also looked at a city's budget the same way. I call it I just call it the Walmart syndrome. And that is whenever I go to Walmart, there's never enough cashiers. And I always just think, put out more cashiers. There are lines that people are waiting to get served. Open some more cashiers. And then Walmart says, well, that costs us more money to put out more cashiers. And the cost is going to go up in Walmart if we put out more cashiers. So everyone went to the automated things and people weren't happy with that. So I always looked at now that I'm on the council and people are saying, we don't have this, we don't have this. To me, that's the more cashiers, that we need more cashiers. Some of this budget goes to new personnel, new staff, and whether or not everyone on the council agrees with each individual staff member that's going to be added. I look at it as the people in charge of those departments are telling us this is where they've had complaints and this is how they can fix it by opening more cashiers, opening more lines per se to have more people working those positions. I can also look at almost every want that we ran through on this budget. None of them were 100% we all wanted and we all voted for. I can point to, you brought up the new truck. I can also point out the ones that Councilmember Green that you wanted that I'm like, I don't think we need that. So we all had that. So it's not fair to bring up one thing as something. I had multiple things. I'm like going, I don't think we need that. But the other people on the council who have been here longer say that we do. So I guess we need this. I'm learning and I'm going to try to be even better when it comes to the next council. But I can tell you the one thing, or the next budget, I can tell you the one thing I'm going to be looking at with the next budget a lot more carefully is, do we have enough cashiers working the lanes so that our city can get done what it needs to get done? Because that's what we need. And that's what money needs to go to. It needs to go to that. It needs to go to our roads. It needs to go to the places that are needed. And if it needs that, if our city needs that, I got elected so I could help with the city needs. And I looked at a lot of this budget, some of it granted or wants, and I probably would have said no to every want because that's how, when I ran my own business, that's how I did it. Do we have money for that want? No. Well, then we'll get it later. But we have some of those. I don't think that we're overboard on our wants, but things we'll be looking for. For the tax increase, though, I still look at this as it takes some money to do the things we need. And even if only a little bit of that money actually makes it to the roads, I'll be glad for every dime that makes it to the roads. And I'll be glad for every dime that got us, and I'll keep using this analogy, another cashier that made life better for the people in West Jordan, even if they don't know it. Or even if they, like Mr. Wilkinson said, I don't know of 12 services that he could name. That was the way I was until I got on this council and realized how much it takes to run a city this size and how many services. So there's a lot that goes on, and I'm so sorry for anyone who gets into a financial bind with things. But I look at the list of cities and where West Jordan is on that list. And I'm very proud of what we do, what we've done with this budget, and what we are attempting to try to continue to do. I'm very proud of our staff that works so hard to put together a budget, knowing that every dollar they ask us for is going to make us wince. But they asked for it, and I have to think they asked for it out of their need. And our job is to try to make sure the needs of this city are fulfilled. And we've got a long way to go to still make that happen. But we're going to do our best.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Bloom online, and then we'll go to Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you. This is the main job that we do, and I was stressed when my flight was delayed and having to join in a little bit late, but I made it because this is what we're elected to do. And we, as other council members have said, you know, we've had a few people reach out to us here and there, but not nearly enough. And if there's anyone listening out there, I continue to please encourage, reach out, talk to us, ask your questions about the budget, because this is what we're here for. And I don't want to rehash some of the things that have already been said, but we take this very, very seriously. And to me, if helping save lives, if helping protect our employees, if helping make where we live a better place, that's what I'm focused on when I go through this budget. And I don't get emotional on a lot of things, but I get emotional on this budget. And I appreciate the hard work the staff has done and our department heads who are tasked with making the asks to us, because it's not easy. And I know they leave a lot of things out that they wish they could have. But I appreciate all the different viewpoints on the budget on the council, because these viewpoints make this budget the best it possibly can. And I want to thank each and every one of you up there on the dais for that. Your insight is powerful, and I want to thank you for that. But from that said, no one wants a tax increase in any way, shape, or form. And I look forward to diving in over the next 2 weeks and making sure that we're doing what's absolutely best for the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. When you run for office for city council, none of us on here went door to door and said, we're going to raise your taxes. I can guarantee that. However, I will say, up until about 2015, I lived in my home in West Jordan for about 20 years now. I don't think I paid attention to what I was paying on my taxes or tax increases, and that's on me. But I do know that the city did discuss it every year. The city and the staff and the city council and the mayor discussed, you know, what we needed. And history shows that from 2012 to 2016, there was no tax increase on the city side of West Jordan. There were tax increases still with the county and the state, et cetera. But for 6 years, there was no increase. And then in 2018, the city staff asked the mayor and the council for an 18% increase. If you times 3 times 6, that's 18%. So I am all for, and I'm going to go back to Councilmember Jacob. I remember when we had this discussion 6 years ago about kicking the can down the street, down the road. And yeah, so I would rather it be $9 this year than $60 to $75 in 6 years as far as the increases go. And it is hard for me because it will affect me as well. We're all citizens of the city. We all pay property taxes, and we're all going to have to do this. But in the end, as Councilmember Bloom said, the money doesn't go into our pockets. It goes into paying for services. And that's what we do with the money that goes to the city. I wish, if you saw the dollar breakdown that Denise Steck showed, You know, I wish we got more than 15 cents of each dollar. I wish we could swap it with the county and get what they get so that we could provide more for services and add the staff that we need. I don't feel that we're growing at an alarming rate. An alarming rate would be probably triple what we're doing. We're actually behind the staff that we need. So the 5 or 6 or 7 that we're adding this year is not alarming to me. And I'm okay adding those because there's stuff that we haven't had in our city that we do need to move forward as the city continues to grow. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing everybody having weighed in, we'll go ahead and look for motion to adjourn. Yeah, I said it.
Before we do that, so.
You have something for the public record here?
Yeah, so
Councilmember Green.
I just want to make sure so that Denise knows what we're doing. Then the 3.5%, Alan, do we need to make a motion? Do we need to do anything that says we want to go with the 3.5%?
That motion will be in 2 weeks.
It's not agendized on the agenda to take any action tonight.
Well, but procedurally, don't we have to do something to provide some information to the staff? I guess that's my question is, Denise, what do you need?
You're out now.
What do you need from us?
Thank you. What I would ask is that if the council were to be changing something dramatically, going from 3.5% is already proposed. So if we're going with 3.5%, then we go in and the ordinance will be prepared and everything will go for your next council meeting. If there is going to be a change of the property tax increase, we have $160,000 being transferred to the CIP fund, which could be used for roads or parks or whatever, right? That would be, you would need to reduce the budget by anything that you're going to reduce my revenue stream by. My first dollar would typically come from a transfer, right? So if you wanted to go, I want to change it to 3%, then I would need to adjust the transfer to the CIP fund down by that same amount. So if there are going to be a majority of you that would agree on a change, it would be helpful for me to know that and know what direction you're going to go in cutting the budget. If you're going to propose the 3.5% and move this forward, then we don't need anything from you.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. My feeling on that is we've hashed this out. We've had the budget discussions. We've come to a place now. Yes, it's not final yet. Yes, we can still vote on it. Yes, we can still change it. We can amend the budget 26 times a year, 24 times a year. However many times we need to, right? As life goes forward. So we've had these conversations. We'll continue to have conversations all year long.
No, I just want to make sure that as we leave this meeting, that staff know what's expected for 2 weeks.
I don't think anybody has changed their mind from the tentative budget vote from what I've heard. So I expect the vote to probably come down about the same.
Chair?
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, one thing to be aware of is state law requires you to adopt this prior to September 1st, the tax rate, set the tax rate, and also approve or adopt the final budget. Both of those actions are required by state law to occur by September 1st.
Which is why we're doing it on August 27th. Some quick math. All right.
Move to adjourn.
All right. We have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Lamb. I'll go ahead and second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll roll us adjourned.